Hey everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. I've got a couple news stories that I want to share with you very quickly about the false prophet Pope Francis and some of his most recent speeches. This first one really should be a jaw-dropper amongst a Christian-based community, but honestly, there isn't a whole lot of chatter about it on the internet. I was really expecting this to make more waves than it has. And this is all about his speech that he made to Kenya's youth at the end of November. And it's going to be in line with his statements where he said Jesus failed at the cross, but this time he's saying that God is destroyed and God is a failure. Pretty crazy stuff. So to start off with, this was a very vast and widespread speech to the Kenyan youth. Again, this is almost a theme on my channel. I've mentioned it several times that the Pope is always targeting the youth, as well as all the political leaders around the world. Remember what Ronald Reagan said about freedom is only a generation away from extinction? Well, that's exactly what they're doing, is targeting all the young people because they are very malleable to their intentions. But in this speech, he talked to the youth saying that, there's a lot of tribal warfare and death and destruction in certain areas of Africa and how to overcome it. He makes some very typical socialist and New World Order comments like this one, saying there are some small opportunities for the Kenyan youth, but really it's a social danger which is beyond us and even beyond this country because it depends on an international system that is unjust. So again, just more New World Order type language there. But here's the kicker. Here's the big one. A reporter, Manuel, asked this question about how can you find God in all this tragedy? Specifically speaking about all the violence that's happening in various parts of Africa. And so here's the Pope's response. Let's see. How can I see the hand of God in tragedy? I was going to say there's just one response, but no, there's no response. There is a path. To look at the Son of God. God endured death to save all of us. God became a tragedy. God allowed himself to be destroyed on the cross. When you don't understand something, when desperation hits you, then look at the cross. That is the great failure of God. That is the destruction of God, and it's a challenge to our faith. Just unbelievable things that he's saying here because, his last statement where he said Jesus failed at the cross, many Catholics, try to defend him saying, well, humanely speaking, not spiritually speaking. In this one, he's really saying that Jesus dying on the cross and God dying on the cross, that is a failure. And later he goes on to say that, well, that failure is okay because it was renewed with the resurrection. So it was a failure that was patched over. But we all know that God is perfection and there is absolutely no failure. So again, more heretical statements. He said Jesus failed at the cross. He said that God is the great failure. And then, as I mentioned in Pope Francis and his rock album, Wake Up, pretty stupid thing if you haven't seen this, did a video on his own rock album. He said this in one of his sermons, talking about faith in Jesus Christ is not a joke, it's something very serious. It's a scandal that God came to be one of us, and it is a scandal that he died on the cross. It's a scandal, the scandal of a cross. So we have the scandal of the cross, we have the greatest failure of God, the destruction of God. Jesus failed on the cross. I mean, it just can't get any worse than this. So share the news for anyone that's still sort of tepid on this Pope. He is most definitely the false prophet, and he's very cunning in how he phrases these things. Some other things here. Pope Francis welcomes in the new year with a call to end arrogance of the powerful. But here's again, just very subtle twisting of words where he's welcoming in the new year. He said, let ourselves be reborn. Key word, reborn. To overcome the indifference which blocks solidarity, key word coming out of France, and to leave behind the false neutrality which prevents sharing. And again, he's talking about a common world and a just and fraternal world, a world in which every person and every creature can dwell in peace. So we all know what it means to be a born-again Christian. It's all about being saved by Christ. But he's talking about it from a very secular perspective, a very worldly perspective, talking about being in solidarity with one another, sharing with one another in our common home, our fraternal world, and dwelling in peace and safety. So again, he just twists things. They all sound very nice, but just twist things for that one world order agenda. Now, about the youth, in his rock album, he's talking about the youth. Here I'll scroll up here and just so you can see it. Pope Francis, Wake Up. This is all about the youth. You can see it in pretty much all these different tracks. He talks about how the youth needs to rise up and wake up, and then you can see it again here in his speech to Kenya, talking about the youth. So here's this verse from Luke, I believe it's chapter 12, verse 53. It says, "The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against the father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother, the mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." I mean, these world leaders and the Pope are really going to try to tear the family unit apart. I mean, they're already tearing us apart from all the different divisions that are currently occurring across the world, whether it's country-by-country divisions, whether it's divisions within the country that I speak of regarding race, religion, sexuality, all these things. Everyone is divided. And his agenda, again, is to divide the youth against the family and facilitate their agenda. Pretty crazy stuff. So anyways, I got some real good stuff lined up for you guys in the next couple days. One of them is pretty nuts. Remember this video? Another major convergence with my Revelation timeline, and I talk about Pope Pius XII and just show you the unbelievable satanic symbolism that happened when he was Pope, and very, very interesting things about how he facilitated the Jesuits to basically be a lead power within the Vatican. There is a article from 1951 that I found, and in it, the author was talking about some prophetic things that he thought were going to happen during the Cold War, and turns out that they didn't happen in the Cold War. They're actually happening now. So that's going to be a real crazy video. Hopefully, maybe get that out tomorrow. So look out for that one. I'll check you guys later. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness. See ya.